Welcome everyone. Once again, this is Navigating Social Media. Um, we we came up with this class to sort of introduce different concepts in social media and help suss out which different social media do what are some of the use cases that you could approach a social media from. I have a slide deck I'm going to share here. All right. So like I said, this is going to be sort of a class aimed for total beginners to social media. Maybe you're trying to, maybe you like to get involved with social media and you'd like to know what platform might be right for you. We're going to go over our objectives. By the end of the class, learners will, for one, recognize key differences and similarities between various social media. There's a lot of common elements that you'll find, but the communities that you might participate in there will vary. So we'll get into that. Two, we're going to help get you a sense of the right social media for you personally. And three, we're going to be going over some tips for understanding how to use social media safely and most effectively. And just as a little introduction, of course, social media over the past 2 decades has grown from a fairly fringe element of our culture to a dominant force. Social media can influence tastes and consumer preferences, connect us with loved ones far away, and disseminate news and ideas. Social media has really worked its way into a lot of elements of our day-to-day lives. And it's useful to understand how it can be used and how it can be used safely and you know, in a way that complements your lifestyle. And I'd like to hit you with a quick statistic here. 3.96 billion is the number of active social media accounts worldwide as of this spring. So that's about half the population of the planet. Of course, many people have multiple different social media accounts, so it doesn't work out to half the planet having social media. But, you know, just to give you a sense of how massive and far-reaching social media is worldwide. Okay, so I'd like to start by going over the different elements of social media. This is going to start with the most basic, and we'll be kind of working up to more complex and nuanced elements as we go. So if any of this is familiar to you, we'll get to some more you know, more nuanced material as we go. So first, we've got the user account. This is your personal account. To use social media, in many cases, you'll need to have your own account. That's not always the case. You can still, without, for example, a Twitter account, you can go on Twitter, browse different tweets, you can look up a particular account. But in a lot of cases, especially on mobile, various social media sites will try to, you know, funnel you towards making or logging into an account to view that content. In a lot of cases also, your social media account is required and, you know, will shape the kind of content that you see on the site. Facebook is a great example of that. Of course, Facebook is meant for connecting with with people in your various circles. So because due to privacy settings, a lot of Facebook's Facebook accounts and content is not visible if you aren't logged in. So that's another thing. You will need a user account to participate in social media. Now, sometimes, in many cases, these are anonymous. And I say anonymous because they don't require your name. Twitter, you can, certainly use your real name for your handle. You don't have to. Facebook, again, is one of those where you are, according to their terms of service, you are required to use your real name. But again, it's these platforms have no way of really verifying that. They won't require like a picture of a driver's license or something. You just put in your name. So, there's everything that implies. Many platforms use a blue checkmark badge to denote verified public figures. So this is kind of the exception. If you're talking about like a celebrity or a high-ranking politician, their account will have a check mark to indicate that is verifiably that person speaking. This is also the case with a lot of accounts of public interest. The CDC Twitter account is verified, for example. Okay, so that's the user account. Next, let's talk about posts. So a post is, if you want to boil it down, sort of the basic unit of expression for any social media. Posts can be various kinds of content. You can have a photo, perhaps with a caption. Depending on the platform, you might also be able to make a short text update or status. It's called, different things depending. It could also be content that's shared from another source, another account. So it might not even be original content. I have here on this slide a picture of a tweet. So this is, what a post on Twitter would look like. Moving on, we've got friends and followers. So there is kind of a distinction here. A friend is someone that you've added to a list and has accepted your friend request. This means that you both will be able to see and interact with one another's accounts and posts and all of your account content. A follower is a one-way connection. If you say follow an account, that means that you're going to see their posts, their updates, but it doesn't mean that they'll see yours. On most social media, they use sort of either or. Twitter, Instagram, social media like that will make use of followers. There are some that do both, like Facebook. You can be friends with another person. You can also change your follow status on them. So for example, it also works in the inverse. You can unfollow another account and not see their updates. So next we've got the feed. I've got a picture here that obviously is going to show you what this looks like on mobile, but kind of works for example. It's an endlessly scrolling list of posts from any friends that you have on your list and any pages or accounts that you've followed. This is usually incorporated into the homepage of any social media. It's sometimes displayed in chronological order. So, you know, the farther you scroll, the earlier chronologically the posts are going to be that you'll see there. You know, with, of course, the most recent posts displayed at the top. Sometimes it's sorted a little bit by algorithm. For example, if you log into Facebook and look at your timeline, is what they call their feed. If you look at your timeline, it's going to prioritize posts from certain users, users that, you know, you've interacted with most, that Facebook can kind of deduce you're closest with. Sometimes you can also indicate that this person is very close with you, mark as like a top friend or something like that. And that will also boost their posts in your feed. Sometimes you have some control over whether the feed is displayed absolutely chronologically or is kind of shifted around based on an algorithm. Next, we've got likes and comments. These are two ways to engage with a post. So for one, based on or depending on the social media, it might be a heart icon, it might be a like, the Facebook thumbs up. Facebook's also added other reactions. So if you on a computer hover over the like button, it's going to give you some other options, including love, haha, wow, sad, and angry. So you can, rather than just liking, you can add a little bit more texture to your reaction. A reaction is just sort of a quick, you know, quick thumbs up or, you know, a like. It doesn't have as much in the way of personal sentiment as, for example, a comment. Oh, I do want to mention, since I have it on the slide, some social media make use of upvotes and downvotes. So Reddit is one of those where you can either thumbs up or thumbs down a post, so, or a comment. So it gives it sort of more of a binary. So a comment is your opportunity to add a text response to the post. So, you know, for example, I might do both of these even. I might find a post. I had a friend get engaged last week. I think what I did was, this was on Facebook, I went to the love icon, and then I typed up a comment like, congratulations, you know, so and so. So you can do both. A like or a reaction is a little bit less personal. You know, if you want to go that extra step, add a comment. Okay, so next we've got private messages. So this is a means of instant messaging a user directly. It's sometimes abbreviated to PM for private message or DM for direct message. In social media that have kind of a wider, more public environment, you should only, it's recommended that you only PM users that you know personally. And some people also, this is kind of one of those aspects of social media culture. Some people kind of chafe at getting a PM from someone they don't know or don't feel you know, that they're on that level with speaking privately in this way. So just something to think about, but this is also useful for conducting any kind of conversation privately, you know, as the name would imply. Sometimes you need to contact someone through social media, or, you know, discuss something with over social media, but it's really not appropriate to be made into a public conversation. Sometimes you'll see people comment back and forth a little bit on a post, and then one of them will say, yeah, why don't you PM me and we can continue this. So once you see that a conversation is kind of, you know, developing that might not concern, you know, the wider public, you might want to take it to a private message. Okay, next we've got stories. Stories are temporary posts that vanish automatically. This was started by Instagram, but many other platforms have since adopted it. A story is a nice way to share, you know, a little trifle, something that's not super important, that say somebody was looking back on your profile days or weeks or months later, you wouldn't necessarily want them to see. Now, this isn't a security thing. It's not a good way to restrict people from seeing the post. It just puts an expiration on it. So, you know, a story, you might just share, like, I don't know, I cracked an egg and it had 2 yolks. Like that's a story that I've seen. I wouldn't probably make that a post on my Instagram, but I might add it to my story, that kind of thing. I mentioned that other social media have adopted the story. You can create and view stories on Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram. There may be others. It seems to be a possible wave of the future, so we'll see. Okay, so those are a lot of basic elements of social media, and what I want to highlight here is, because of how instrumental social media has been to you know, our day-to-day lives, the public discourse, etc. You will start seeing these components of social media in websites and services that you probably wouldn't think of as social media. You know, for example, Yelp, which is sort of like sort of a white pages mixed with white pages or yellow pages. I'm not sure which is the business facing one. Showing my age here.
Yellow.
Yellow. Okay. Okay, so yeah, Yelp is sort of like a mix of the yellow pages for business listings, but it's also got a rating feature. You can also comment on various businesses through Yelp. You probably wouldn't think of Yelp as a social media, though. Nobody's going on there and making weekend plans necessarily, or having conversations about you know, what they, you know, this headline or whatever. It's more of a service than a social media, but it's got elements of social media. There's others. For example, like Netflix, streaming entertainment. Most people wouldn't think that that's a social media, but it's got an upvote, downvote rating system. Depending on how you're watching Netflix, you can also, you may have the option to share what you're watching to a social media. So that's another way that it has a tie-in. There's also Venmo, which is a payment app, sort of like PayPal, or the Cash App, a variant of that, basically. Venmo was sort of has been sort of used as a social media. People will can set their transactions history to public or visible to friends, and you can find, you know, any user whose phone number you have will show up. Their transaction history, if they choose to share that, will show up in your feed. And you know, this is an app used for sending payments to people. Like, who would have thought that would become or start to encroach into social media territory? But these are sort of some of the things that have started to happen as social media has become more and more prevalent. Okay, so just that was my final word on that. I want to move on to a few notable social media platforms. First, let's talk about Facebook. So Facebook was founded in 2004, grew in users very quickly. It's still, and has been for many years, the largest social media in the world in terms of number of users, number of pages, and groups that you can find there. So Facebook, to see someone's post, you need to connect directly with them by adding them as a friend. But you can also join groups where people you may not have on your friends list can post about, you know, say a hobby or interest. There are public interest pages and pages run by, you know, various celebrities, you know, bands, politicians, and so forth. So you can follow those pages for updates. Facebook it has an emphasis on your personal relationships. It's less about being a public sphere, less than other social media, but in many ways you can kind of think of it as a public forum. Facebook has also in recent years added the Facebook Marketplace, which is where you can find items to buy, and also post items for selling directly to other users in your area. So that's, you know, Facebook has a lot of different features, but that's the basics of it. Next, we've got Twitter. My summation of Twitter is that it's a public forum for breaking news and pithy one-liners. You'll see a lot of news and journalists use Twitter pretty heavily. A lot of politicians are on Twitter. You'll also find a lot of sort of a more comedy-oriented side. People, you know, because of the small format, each tweet is 240 characters, which is, you know, less than a paragraph. It's maybe a couple sentences. And that's actually up from what it previously was at 120 characters. So, you know, you can find an abundance of kind of short one-liners, brief commentary, that kind of thing on Twitter. Twitter is also public. You can follow whatever accounts you like. You can search hashtags for finding topics that interest you. Twitter is what they call a microblogging platform. Blogging in that you're sharing your own content, your own original updates and writing, but of course in a very small format. Twitter is also notable in that the Library of Congress has been saving all tweets, although they are starting to dial back on that because it's just so much data. So that's Twitter. Next up, we've got Instagram. Instagram is mostly public. There are a few exceptions in that you can make a private Instagram, which means it's not visible. It's not visible to someone without an account, or even if they do have an account, they need to reach out to you for approval to see your Instagram. But by default, Instagram, you know, a new Instagram account will be public. The emphasis on Instagram is on photo and video sharing. I mentioned the story started with Instagram before moving to Facebook and other platforms. Instagram is also owned and operated by Facebook. It's a division of Facebook.
Question on Instagram. Can it be made private? Only certain people see it, or is it?
You can, yeah. I am not 100% sure where that setting is, but I'll circle back and see if I can find that. But yeah, the short answer is yes. If you would like to limit your Instagram to only a list of people that you approve, you can.
Okay.
Okay, and then the last one that I want to go over here is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a professional networking social media. It's got less of an emphasis on social. It's more for you to be able to connect with coworkers, you know, people in your industry, and to most of the posts you'll find on LinkedIn are, you know, articles about pertinent to your work. You know, you can I guess to boil it down, LinkedIn is a social media in a very similar vein to Facebook. You're still adding connections to be able to see people's pages. You can still create and read others' posts. You can react and comment to posts. It's all done kind of under the aegis of being your professional presence. I think a LinkedIn, if expanding your professional network is of any interest or use to you, it's definitely worthwhile to set up a LinkedIn account. And you can, you know, you can post elements of your resume. Any connections that you add have the ability to endorse you for various skills, which can help connect you to other people. So that's, and you know, you'll also find sometimes, again, back to the idea that social media is kind of permeated many elements of our lives. A lot of employers will do sort of a brief search of you on LinkedIn if they're you know, considering your application. So definitely having a, you know, a presence there is worthwhile and useful. Okay, so next big topic is using social media safely. Of course, there are a lot of ways that you know, if you're not careful about what you're doing or mindful about how you use social media, that it can be a little dangerous, even a little unhealthy. We'll get into that. So first, we've got the public versus private aspect. So this will vary based on the platform. Facebook skews more private in that unless you make your page and your posts all public, they'll only be visible to those who you've added as friends or accepted friend requests from. And then of course, Twitter is more on the public side. When you're creating a post or even viewing a post, there's an icon next to the post that indicates visibility. So if you look at this this screen cap that I've included, there's a little globe icon next to the timestamp that indicates that it's public. That means that anybody can share this post. Anybody who sees the shared post will see the original. You can also set the privacy for this post to just friends. So only your friends would be able to see it. You can also filter out certain friends from being able to see the post. And the inverse of that, you can only show it to specific friends. I think by default, posts are visible to friends of friends. And that means that, you know, say person A makes a post, person B, who's their friend, can see it. But then if person B comments on A's post, person C, who's, you know, friends with person B but not A, you know, they would also be able to see their friend commenting on that, even if they might not have the ability to view the original post, or because they're not friends with that person. So this is, you know, just something to consider, who can see what. Usually these various social media will make it pretty easy to tell what that level of permission is. So just keep an eye on it. And I've mentioned this earlier with regards to Instagram. On some social media, you can make your entire account private so that only approved users can view it. I believe Twitter also allows that. It's kind of not really, you know, what most people use Twitter for. You know, with Instagram, I think there's a greater impetus for having a private account because you're sharing photos, you know, posts with you know, a location tag, something like that. That can be, you know, a bit more, you know, reveal a bit more personal information than you would typically find on Twitter. So, you know, if that's something that interests you, if you'd like to use Instagram, but you're kind of a private person, you can set your account to private. Now, anybody who can see your account logged in on theirs, you know, that means that if someone else were to gain access to that account by any means, they would also be able to see your account and your posts. So that's something to be aware of. Making it private isn't a bulletproof strategy for keeping your information completely safe. I don't want to, you know, worry you, because generally it's, you know, it's fine. These you know, anything that you can trust telling a friend, you know, you should generally feel comfortable doing that. But again, I just want to make you aware. Another thing is people don't always realize this, But there are some activities on social media that can be seen by others. So, you know, for example, if you like a post, that might show up in somebody's feed. It might say so and so liked this and show the post, if it's a public post, for example. If you comment on something, that could also show up in someone's feed. So, you know, some people use social media. You know, I've known people who go into comment sections on, you know, various pages and you know, posts and kind of with a posture of sort of looking for a fight. I don't know that they're always aware that other people can see them engaging in that kind of activity. So again, just consider what am I doing that somebody else could see? Which of my post, what's the privacy on my posts? What's public? What's private just to me or my friends? I also want to talk about secondary accounts. So this would be, in other words, you have a main account and then you have another login. You know, so many social media don't stipulate that you're only allowed one account, or have anything to really do about that if you do make another account. I think Facebook is the one that comes to mind. They, in their terms, they don't want you creating a second account for yourself because that can be used for kind of fraudulent purposes. But some reasons you might consider setting up a secondary account. For one, keeping things organized. My girlfriend recently got really into embroidery, and she created another account just for her embroidery posts. Because she, you know, everything that she'd work on, she'd post pictures and that kind of thing. And naturally, you know, some people, some of her friends were very interested in following her work over there. Probably some of them wouldn't want to, you know, would want to follow her normally on Instagram, but not if 2/3 of all her posts are embroidery, if that's not something they're interested in. So a secondary account can be useful for keeping multiple interests, possibly you know, business endeavors and things like that, organized and discrete from one another. Secondary accounts can also be good for maintaining some level of privacy. You see this a lot on Reddit, for example, where someone has maybe like a sensitive question they want to ask, or something that could reveal, a post that could reveal some of their personal information, like a name or where they live, something like that. And they'll make a throwaway account basically just to post that, so that their previous posting history can't be linked to this new post. So that's one way to help protect your information and your privacy, by, you know, enforcing some distance between certain sensitive posts and your main profile. So those are what I would call good reasons to set up a secondary account. Even important reasons. If you have a business or some kind of project you're working on, you should probably not use your personal Facebook account to publicize and operate that. You'll want to make a separate, well, certainly a business page for it. And next we've got some reasons that you should not set up a secondary account. The first is fraudulent profiles. So, say someone blocks you, don't make another profile just so you can try to see theirs or their posts. That's not good. And another is extraneous profiles. So it's kind of, I think it's become a little passe at this point, but you probably should not make a Facebook profile for your dog, for example. Each person should generally have, their own single profile or account. And you don't, another thing is you don't want to be juggling all these different logins. That can also become sort of a security and privacy issue. So if you do have a secondary account or have some need to operate using one, keep track of what account you're logged in as when you're doing, when you're on the social media. You'll occasionally see someone who is logged into a professional account, maybe for their work. Maybe they manage their company's social media, or maybe it's a small business owner who's still logged in as their business. You'll sometimes see them posting or commenting or engaging in social media as they would on their personal account. That's just one example. Obviously, that's not super professional. It can be kind of confusing, and again, there's always a security issue if you're if you're posting thinking that you're on one account but you're actually on the other. Another tip is that it will depend on the platform. Secondary accounts are very appropriate for Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, social media like that. For LinkedIn, that would be a bad idea to have a secondary LinkedIn for yourself. Facebook, again, you don't need a second Facebook account for yourself. And in fact, if you do set up a business profile, it doesn't act like a user account. It's just sort of a little tag that you can toggle in or out of that's connected to your personal account. Okay, so I just want to mention this because sometimes people think, they think, oh, I haven't been on Facebook for a while. I don't remember my password. I'm just going to make another profile. You ideally, you try to recover your password for the original one rather than set up a secondary account. And next, some general guidelines on protecting your information. You may have heard the saying, once it's on the internet, it's there forever. That's, it's technically true. It's also true in the very important sense that if you post something that you end up regretting and you take down, once it's there, someone can take a screen cap of it and save an image. They might even be able to save, for example, a photo. And once they have a digital copy of it, they can continue to disseminate it if they so chose. So just be wary. be smart about what you post. Another guideline is, would you want your employer or your grandmother to see it? If it's, you know, something that's, you know, could be inappropriate, you know, rethink posting that. Another is to only add necessary information. Facebook, I see this a lot on Facebook. You go to somebody's profile and they'll have their entire job history, every town they lived in, things like that. They'll have all their, you know, their relatives on there, connected to their account. I'm not advising you not to add your family members on Facebook, but you know, some people, when they're filling out their profile for the first time, they see all these empty fields like, you know, hometown, current city, employment, and you know, you can fill in as much as you want, and you can keep adding other details as you go. But just by looking at someone's profile that way, once you accept my friend request, you know, I have access to a lot of information about you. You know, things like, there are some common, for example, some common security questions for various accounts, like, you know, your mother's maiden name, the street you grew up on, your high school mascot. If you post a lot of that information, or, you know, if you post, for example, your high school and, you know, you're connected to your, you know, your account is connected to your mother's account, and things like that, I have a better jumping off point. You know, I have some more information on you that could help me gain access to something like a bank account. So that's just something to be wary of. You don't need to fill out your entire employment history. Just keep it to the essentials. You know, think about what you really want to share with people. It's, you know, this is not an exercise in completion. Remember that you're on this social media so you can connect with people better. And if an element of that is trying to get back together with old high school friends, then by all means add that. Just be aware of what you're adding and why.
We have some chat questions.
Okay, yeah, let's take a quick break and
Okay,
check those out.
yeah.
Okay, Joe says 280 characters. Good point, Joe. Thanks for looking out. And you also mentioned Unicode glyphs. So yeah, this is a character is any like letter, number, a space is a character. All the symbols that you can generate with your keyboard are characters, for the purposes of that. Right, I think I had that figure wrong. Okay, and Barbara says, instead of making a second account, would it be better to create a Facebook group or Facebook page? Yeah, if there's you know, a business, a project, some kind of artistic endeavor, it depends how you want to bring people together, and how you want to share information. Making a page could fit your need. It might also be useful to make a Facebook group so that you can, you know, a group is more oriented towards discussing, whereas a page is more of a source for information and for posts. So, you know, it depends on your need, but you could consider really either of those based on the circumstances. Okay, and then Juliet says, how does one capture a photo of Facebook? So this is something that you can do on any computer. If you hit Shift and then the print screen button, that takes a screen capture of exactly what your computer screen is displaying. You can also screen cap from a phone or a tablet. Like on an iPad or an iPhone, you hit the volume and lock button. That takes a screen cap. That's just a handy tool for your everyday computer or phone use. But I highlight that to mention it's fairly simple to anything that you see on social media to capture that. So, if there's anything that could be presented out of context or anything that might be, sensitive or personal of that kind of nature, someone can, take a screen capture of it. Will they, you choose your own friends list, right? In the case of Facebook. Okay, so Reddit. Yeah, I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about Reddit. This is going to be kind of extemporaneous. But Reddit is sort of recreates the forum experience. Forums were really big in the 90s and in the 2000s. And Reddit is probably at the end of the spectrum that is most anonymous. Obviously, like some people have verified accounts, public interest figures, but you can call yourself anything on Reddit and interact in a variety of different boards. So pretty much what's really neat about Reddit is that every interest you can think of has at least one subreddit, they're called. And a subreddit is sort of like a curated group of topics on or threads on that particular topic. So and if there's any interest you have, there's more than likely multiple subreddits on that. So for example, there's one popular subreddit called r/movies. You'll see a lot of discussion of new movies there. People will post like a link to a trailer for an upcoming movie and things like that. But kind of related to the movies subreddit, you've got r/box office, which the idea there is to discuss only box office numbers. You could have a subreddit on like a particular genre of movies, a subreddit on rom-coms or noir or whatever. Reddit is really cool for finding interest groups around a particular hobby. So, check that out. But, because of the nature of Reddit, I think it also does, the user base skews pretty young. So, for a while, I really enjoyed reading Reddit and, upvoting, downvoting things. Took me a long time before I felt like I kind of knew the scene well enough to comment and to post there. So, just, your mileage may vary. Okay, I've talked a lot about Reddit.
One question on Reddit, can anyone, you have to create an account to go in?
You don't need to create an account to view it. And in fact, this will happen to me a lot. I'll look up a topic or, I'll have a question, I'll Google it, and some of the first results will be a Reddit thread on that topic. You don't need a Reddit account to view. If you want to upvote, downvote, comment, or make your own posts, you do need an account.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Juliet, you also asked, how do I access Facebook Marketplace?
We're gonna have a class on that.
Yes.
Thursday, July
but-
15th at 3 p.m. So if you want to sign up for that, you can sign up for that. But you could talk about it, but we are gonna have a class.
Yeah, I do recommend that. That's Lauren teaches that, right, Annie?
Yes, she does.
Okay, yeah. Check out that class. It's pretty valuable for learning the ins and outs of Facebook Marketplace. From the app, there's a little tab on the bottom of the screen that goes to Facebook Marketplace. It'll also be on the on your feed if you're on a computer, for example. It should be somewhere on one of the sidebars. I don't use Facebook Marketplace a lot myself, but that should get you started. And then let's see, Barbara says Facebook has a legacy setting in the controls which allow the user to appoint another user to take control of the account after a death. Yeah, this is, of course, you know, after someone passes away, their accounts can be difficult for their loved ones to gain access to. That is something you can, yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Barbara. You can appoint someone to take over a Facebook account. You also, you know, now that Facebook's been around for quite some time, you know, over 15 years, you will occasionally see a profile that says memorial on it. I believe the rules are the same there. You know, all of the memorialized posts aren't visible unless you add that person, I think. But yeah, and you can also have your account deleted if you choose. Yeah, thanks for bringing this up. I don't know off the top of my head if other social media offer this as well, but definitely useful. And Joe asks, is there a handout to go along? Yeah, we'll be sending out all the slide deck that I've been using, and there's also a student guide that I wrote up that goes into the same topics, but in greater detail. So keep an eye out for that. I want to leave time for a few extra questions, but I'm just going to, you know, finish up here. So another thing I want to add, I've been seeing this a lot lately. There are memes, particularly on Facebook, that prompt you to add some kind of information. Something like, you know, like if you're a real Chicagoan, name 3 streets in Chicago or something like that. Or, you know, something like there'll be a list of like, you know, plug in your birthday and the first letter of your first name and the first letter of your, you know, mother's maiden name or something. And you know, it'll reveal like you know, what your superhero power would be or something like that. Be cautious of those because there's, even if it wasn't made with this intent, other people can view that the information that you post there. It could be that whoever created that meme was trying to collect information in some way, maybe to get some of your personal details, but maybe also, you know, to sort of gather information like, okay, what do people from Downers Grove think of when, you ask them about streets in Chicago. Are they, only familiar with like, uh, Michigan Avenue or something? There's maybe that information can't be used against you, but you are giving someone some information. So be aware. And then last point I want to make, don't share vacation photos while you're away.
Masks are required for all patrons, including those who have been vaccinated.
I'm just going to talk through.
Masks must cover your face, mouth, and
If you
chin.
share vacation photos while you're on vacation, you're signaling that you're away from your house.
From others,
Um,
all unwanted
A
materials
lot of like home insurance and renters insurance,
refrain from eating
uh,
in the building. Thank you.
a lot of home insurance and renters insurance may also not cover any kind of incident, a burglary or something like that. If you've posted that you're away from your house, you might forfeit your coverage that way. So you can always wait till you get back to post things like that.
I
I'm
have
gonna
another
hurry through this
question.
list. Oh yeah,
What is the definition of a meme?
a meme. Okay, a meme is sort of like a picture or some kind of shareable thing. It could be like a joke, or it's really hard to describe. A lot of the time there's sort of like a familiar format that gets used. Let me see if I can brainstorm one here. So like this is a pretty old meme at this point. This goes back like 10 years, but there were those pictures that had like a top text, bottom text, and in the center there was like a an goofy animal or something, and they'd say and I can't think of one. Anyway, memes are sort of little shareable like jokes, if you want to think of it that way. It's a unit of culture, I think. There's a longer definition to it, but so lastly, I just want to say, when you're on social media, whatever you're using it for, or plan to use it for, be focused with your goals. Social media is habit forming by design. It's kind of intended to keep you scrolling, to keep putting content that you like to see under your nose. So it can be really easy to sort of lose yourself, like opening, like for example, on a phone, you open Facebook, you scroll a little bit, you realize that you didn't go in there for any particular use, so you close it, and then before you know it, you're like scrolling Facebook again. Just be aware, what are you trying to do here? Consider what it is you're trying to do before you log in or open the app. It's social media has a lot of benefits, right? I mean, we can connect with people so much easier. You can get back in touch with old friends that before social media you would have had to know a phone number or an address. Now it can be so easy to find old friends and reconnect. But you want to be aware that you're using your time on social media effectively, that you're getting what you want out of it. And if necessary, set limits. If it means logging out when you're done for the day rather than staying logged in, so it's just that much more difficult to get into the account again. So you can't kind of mindlessly open Facebook or whatever it is, that might work for you. There are ways that you can You know, I know on an iPhone, I think probably on Android phones also, set a time limit on your use of these apps for each day. And then last, I want to say social media is not a popularity contest. It can have a certain tendency to reduce your friendships and relationships to numbers, like, you know, how many likes did this get? Oh, this post got more likes than that one. You know, a lot of people commented on this photo I posted, whatever. Don't be too worried about the number of friends or followers you have, especially on Twitter and Instagram. People get really obsessed with their follower count. And don't worry too much about the number of likes and shares your posts get. It's, you know, it's really not about that. It's not about the numbers. And then last point, don't accept friend requests from people you don't know. That sounds kind of obvious, but you know, it happens fairly frequently that someone might, you know, send a friend request as, you know, a name that sounds maybe familiar, or you know, for whatever reason, don't accept that. You're just giving someone access to your account that you don't personally know. And I will also say, if you're already friends with someone, don't accept another request from a person by their name. That, you know, that could have been somebody who found a couple public pictures of them and their name, made a new account, and is then trying to, you know, cozy up to that person's friends for whatever purpose, you know. So be mindful of that. And then maybe a little extra time for questions. I know we're already a little past. Stephen says a meme is essentially an image of something popular or eye-catching, repurposed so it conveys an idea. Yeah, let me see if I can find a good meme to send out with a student guide. That'll hopefully help crystallize things. Okay, so we went over a lot today. If you have any other questions on social media, I know that's a pretty broad prompt, but if there's anything that you know, you maybe want to learn more about or have a concern about, you know, feel free to reach out to us at the Computer Help Desk. You can reach us by email at computerdesk@dglibrary.org. We're also here on the second floor in the library. So yeah, get in touch with any extra questions you might have. Once again, we're going to send out the student guide and the slides and a good meme I come up with. Otherwise, thanks so much, everyone, for being here. This was the first navigating social media class we've done. Yeah, it looks like there was a pretty strong appetite for this kind of class. So thanks, everyone, and we will see you next time.